Love must be honest, love must be safe, love must seek each other's highest good, and love must honor God. Hello, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're talking about good boundaries and goodbye. I just finished this book and I just thought it was so wonderful. I felt like it just had so much of what I had gone through with setting boundaries and understanding what boundaries are good to set and when it's a good time to say goodbye. And even though it's not cut and dry, it's still hard to decide those factors. But this book was so good. I also did her other book, Forgiving What You Can't Forget. I personally like this book a little better. I think it aligns with me more, what I need in my healing process. But it was just really, really great. This is written in a Christian perspective. So if that's something that bothers you or triggers you, feel free to skip this episode. I will be putting in a lot of verses that she adds. But yeah, let's get started. So I'm going to start off with some of the verses that she has. John 13:34. So now I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. Proverbs 15:32. If you reject discipline, you only harm yourself, but if you listen to correction, you will grow in understanding. 1 Corinthians 13:4-7. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no records of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. And this is something I consistently need. I feel like sometimes I can be impatient, I can be unkind, when true love isn't that. Boundaries protect the right kind of love. We can't enable bad behavior and call it love. You are not crazy. You can love them, but you can't change them. You can not build trust that keeps getting broken. Without trust, love will die. Do not confuse the good commandments, which is to love and forgive, with the bad realities of enabling or covering up things that are not honoring to God. When someone's dishonorable actions beg us not to stay, this should give us a serious pause. Help cannot bond with unhelp. So either the author had to get unhealthy to enable the cycle to continue, or she had to follow through with the boundaries she had agreed upon. So if you don't know, the author and her husband had gone through a lot, had found out that her husband was unloyal, and so she tried to forgive, right, and set more boundaries and everything, and tried to work through it. But then she had realized that she was the only one working through things, and things were coming back, and signs and all these things, even though she wanted things to work out, just realizing like she can't change him. And as much as she wants this to work out, it is not helping her. It's bringing her down, trying to make things work and being the only one trying to make things work. Most people struggling with addictions will have irrational justifications that will never make sense. They do not factor others. They truly think their choices only affect them. All relationships can be difficult at times, but they should not be destructive to our well being. You've reached the place that you can forgive the person and you can love them. You've made the changes and you've listened to the wise advice and you've done everything you've known to do. But you finally realize that if they don't want things to change, you cannot change them. Sometimes your only option is to say goodbye. Boundaries aren't a good idea, they are a God idea. And that is a little backflash of the book For Giving What You Can't Forget. That was like the end, the last chapter of that book, which was amazing. And it specifically talked specifically about boundaries. And so that was kind of a recap of her other book, but she put it in the first chapter of this book. And so she also had her therapist in with the book. I was listening to the audiobook, so the therapist would come in and explain things that maybe I didn't understand. There are two types of triggers, internal and external. The trigger can be caused by either an internal thought or an external action from someone else. In both cases, it brings a painful incident from the past and makes it feel as if it's happening in the present. But the trigger is not the main issue. The main issue is the unhealed trauma still inside of you. When triggers come up, stop and take a breath and say, I know what's going on here. I have been here before. I am not in immediate danger. There is a way out and I can seek help. I can let this feeling inform me, but I do not have to spiral into panic. And no matter the trigger, you have the power to rise in resiliency. It is not unchristian to require people to treat you in healthy ways. Something I really loved about the book was access. And understanding this really helped me. So you don't give keys to your home or passwords to your account for no reason. Say you're having someone house sit or dog sit, you're going to give them access to your keys only if you trust them. You're only going to give your bank account information to a really close relative or someone you can trust. And she says, why don't we guard our hearts the same way? Proverbs 4:23 says, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Love can be unconditional, but relational access never should be. And just like the key to our house, if we gave them that trust and they broke it, they would lose that trust and we would not give them access to the house or give them the keys to the house anymore. And she's saying we are granting too much access without the correct level of responsibility. Have we required people to be responsible with the amount of access we have given them? And do we have appropriate consequences in place to hold them accountable if they violate our boundaries? People who are irresponsible with our hearts should not be granted great access to our hearts. And the same is true for other kinds of access as well: physical, emotional, spiritual, financial. If someone continuously acts out, that person has abandoned the relationship. It's not about the problems, it's about what the problems represent. Relationships often die, not because of the conversations that were had, but rather the conversations that were needed but never had. Appropriately addressing the issue is healthy. Ignoring the issue increases the likelihood of dysfunction. In a relationship, when trust is manipulated, denied, or partially omitted for the sake of covering up behaviors that should be addressed, dysfunctions may not just be difficult, they become destructive. We then run the risk of a pattern of wrongs being tolerated as acceptable. She walked away from every conversation with her friend feeling wrongfully judged, misunderstood, and regretted sharing struggles with her. Her friend would call it holding her accountable to being a good Christian. But through counseling, she started to realize that wasn't her friend's true intention. Her friend was actually holding her hostage to doing things her way. You can communicate what makes you feel respected and disrespected, safe and unsafe, healthy and unhealthy. Good relationships require good boundaries. She has rewarded people for disrespecting her boundaries. She has hinted around setting a boundary instead of clearly stating it. People continue to ask things that aren't aligned with that boundary, or they just flat out ignore the boundary. She has allowed herself to get pulled into debates about the boundary, but she says something her counselor said that really helped her, and I thought it was really good too. Adults inform, children explain. At times, she has been convinced by the other person that the boundary is the real problem, and things will never get better while the boundary is in place. Sometimes she can't find the strength to stand firm with people who know both her and the person whom she set a boundary with. When other people excuse away or minimize this person's behavior, keeping the boundary can feel difficult. If others don't feel threatened or triggered by this person's behavior, they may accuse her of making more of the situation than she should. Usually, these are the people who feel a little inconvenienced or frustrated by the boundary and rather ignore the issues at hand than address them. She starts to question if the boundary is hindering peace. If someone is demanding that you drop a boundary or try to convince or charm you that it's no longer necessary, beware. When we allow a boundary to be violated, bad behavior will be validated. Broken boundaries bring consequences. God's grace was there to lead people to better behavior, not to enable bad behavior. The consequence should serve to protect you, not do more harm. She says, I accept that I am powerless to control other people. Instead, I use my energy to limit my interactions with difficult people, remove myself from destructive relationships, and pursue loving well the people in my healthy relationships that deserve the best of me. A boundary isn't about taking control of the other person's actions. If your focus is trying to change the other person, you will quickly feel like boundaries don't work for you. Switch your focus on what you can control with your boundaries. You can control your environment, what you are or are not willing to tolerate, what you do and do not have to give. Grace has a place in this conversation. We can be gracious in how we talk about our concerns, our need for a boundary, and the consequences if the boundary is violated. Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. Boundaries help you fight for the relationship. A boundary without a real consequence will never be taken seriously. It is often people who need boundaries the most who will respect them the least. They may never see your boundary as a good thing. And some wonderful things are said if you're starting to feel triggered, and some simple things you can do to relax your body. Drink at least 4 ounces of water. Pray a simple request for help. Try to wait 20 minutes before making any decisions or have any hard conversations. Put your feet in the grass. Go for a walk. Listen to music that calms and feeds your soul. Process with a wise, safe friend. She has overlooked this offense so many times and the situation still wasn't changing. This person involved didn't live in my house or even in the same state, but our words carried so much weight in my life that just a few hard statements felt like daggers to the most tender places of my heart. When this person was in a hard situation, she felt it was completely acceptable to fly off the handle emotionally and verbally berate me. Mature people can disagree and still respect the sanity of the other person. Mature people are willing to see the impact their actions are having on the other person and make reasonable adjustments. Or if they're unwilling to adjust, mature people at least communicate their unwillingness and acknowledge that their relationship may need to change significantly. They do this all without accusing, abusing, or losing it. A manipulative person has never met a boundary that they liked. Chances are the manipulator has unhealed trauma or childhood wounds from the past that makes them resist any perceived control over them. A manipulative person will see your boundary as a yellow light, while you intended it to be a red light, with a full stop to ensure your safety. If you feel like you have to trade the best of who you are to protect the worst of who they are, do not ignore this red flag. Philippians 1 9 through 10. I pray that your love will overflow more and more, that you will keep on growing in knowledge and understanding. For I want you to understand what really matters, so that you may live pure and blameless lives until the day of Christ's return. Healthy people are mature people. They seek to understand your concerns, discuss any issues that the need for the boundary reveals, and respects your limits. We won't get healthy results from unhealthy relationships. And she put a who am I? And I really loved it, so I'm going to have it here. I am a woman who loves God, loves other people. Therefore, because of Christ and me, I am empowered by the version of me God intended when He created me. I am kind, caring, creative, generous, fun, and loving. I have those qualities, but they aren't what is most apparent when people use me, take advantage of me, make unrealistic demands of me, and make wrong assumptions about me when I say no. In other words, when I've let someone violate my boundaries, I can get so frustrated that I act in completely opposite ways of the woman I really am. This type of reaction is on me, and I need to totally own it. Not what someone else does, but my reaction to what they do. So boundaries help me stay true to who I really am. Without boundaries, I can hyperextend myself to the point where I can become anxious, bitter, resentful, angry, annoyed, and distant. That's not who I really am. So it's my responsibility not to let another person's actions and expectations wear me down to the worst version of myself. In a biblical sense, it's me not allowing another person to make me betray who I am in Christ. I am a victorious woman of God, not a victim of a bunch of circumstances that caught me off guard. God's love isn't based on me, it's simply placed on me. Trying to make someone else happy shouldn't be your definition of healthy. Boundaries aren't about shoving people away, they are about holding ourselves together. A wife wants nothing more than to be fully chosen, purely loved, and honorably protected in a marriage relationship. 1 Peter 2:23. He did not retaliate when he was insulted, nor threaten revenge when he suffered. He left his case in the hands of God, who always judges fairly. I think that's something that I have personally had to struggle with a lot. When I first started making boundaries, I was very new to it. I didn't understand it, but I knew I had to protect myself in some way. And so I made a boundary, and it was a boundary where it's like, you have to change. And realizing, and there's a book called How to Be an Adult in Relationships. And I've talked about this story before. Say you have an apple and you know it's poisonous, but it looks so good and you just want it, but you know it's poisonous. Would you eat it? Say you do eat it. Would you blame the apple for being poisonous? It is your choice to be in these relationships, and it's your responsibility to protect yourself and step away when it's your time to. And that's something I had to understand, is not controlling others, but controlling what I can control. Other people don't get a final say of who you are. God does. We can't control what others believe. We can't control what others feel. We can't control what others do. But we can control and be responsible for ourselves. We must keep other people's comments about us separate from what we believe about ourselves. Colossians 3:12 through 16. Since God has chosen you to be the holy people He loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. Above all, clothe yourself with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. And let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts. For as members of one body, you are called to live in peace and always be thankful. There is a big difference between trying to set a boundary and enforcing a boundary. And someone being disappointed in us doesn't make us a disappointment. Integrity is humble honesty before the Lord and other people. If someone doesn't become aware of their own need for God, they will never truly embrace what only God can give them. Healthy relationships don't feel threatening. Loving relationships don't feel cruel. Secure relationships don't feel as if everything could implode if you dare to draw a boundary. They also added some healthy coping mechanisms, which is intentional self-care, going on a walk, reading a helpful book, getting sleep, dinner with trusted friends, hobbies like painting, cooking, writing poetry, therapy, educating on your trauma, podcasts, Bible studies, seminars, journaling, and memorizing scriptures. Matthew 15:10-14. Then Jesus called the crowd to come and hear. Listen, he said, and try to understand. It's not what goes into your mouth that defiles you. You were defiled by the words that come out of your mouth. Then the disciples came to him and asked, Do you realize you offended the Pharisees by what you just said? Jesus replied, Every plant not planted by my heavenly Father will be uprooted, so ignore them. They are blind guides, leading the blind, and if a blind person guides the other, they will both fall into the ditch. Matthew 15:19-20. For from the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, all sexual immorality, theft, lying, and slander. These are what defile you. Eating with unwashed hands will never defile you. People like the Pharisees are like blind guides and instructs those listening to leave them. It's not only okay to end a relationship where this is present, but Jesus says if we don't, we may risk falling into a pit with them. I want to walk in light. I want to delight in the truth. I want my heart, mind, and words to reflect my devotion to God. I will not bow down to someone's mistreatment, but I will also not rise up with such anger that I violate God's truth in the way I exit. I want to fully live again. I'm not walking away. I'm accepting reality. Safety and trust are the most important foundations to a healthy marriage. And the author had this really wonderful story. She was battling if she should leave her husband and the father of her kids and everything. And she just had this amazing story where her friend had an old Bible from hers from, I think, high school or college or something. Her friend just reached out, like, hey, I have your Bible. Do you want it? And she's like, sure. And her daughter went and actually grabbed it. And it was like an old Bible. And so when you opened it, everything just kind of like fell apart, but it landed to this one verse, Ephesians 5:3-7. But among you, there must not be even a hint of sexual immorality, or of any kind of impurity, or of greed, because these are improper for God's holy people. Nor should there be obscenity, foolish talking, or coarse joking, which are out of place, but rather thanksgiving. For of this you can be sure, no immoral, impure, or greedy person, such a person is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and of God. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of such things God's wrath comes on those who are disobedient. Therefore, do not be partners with them. And so, her highlighting this in her Bible long ago and seeing it now, it was kind of like God is with you, and then God is allowing it. Like, it's okay, to leave and to step away. And the last part of the book, which I really liked, was when people try to use Bible scriptures against you. So she tells you what's wrong, like how people misuse the Bible, and then the meaning, the true meaning behind it, and then a way you can respond when someone uses this against you. For example, I had someone use love keeps no record of wrongdoing. She says the wrong way of seeing this is to maintain a posture of love and forgiveness. We should choose to forget the unhealthy patterns of behavior, destructive choices someone else is making or has made, and hurtful or harmful interactions that have occurred with this person. And the true meaning is holding on to things that have been done against us. It's not telling us to blindly forget or ignore actions that we are still suffering the impact of. While we can forgive the fact of what happened, it may be crucial to still discuss and process the impact those actions had on you for the sake of healing. A question to ask yourself is this: am I bringing up something from the past for the sake of hurting someone, or for the sake of healing from what they did to me so that we can both move forward? And she said a way to respond is this: did you know that for every hurt that is done to us, there is both the fact of what happened, and there's also the impact of what those actions cost us emotionally, physically, or financially? Please know, out of obedience to God, I have made the choice to forgive you for the facts of what happened. At the same time, I'm still trying to understand the impact that all this has had on me. When I'm processing what happened, I'm not keeping a record of wrongs to use against you. I'm just working through the impact of this pain to get to healing. So these boundaries I'm establishing aren't a violation of Scripture, but rather a verification that I'm doing the necessary work that proper healing requires. It's not my place to judge you, but it is my responsibility to protect myself from being degraded, deceived, and devastated by your choices. This boundary will need to stay in place until I can verify that trusting you again is safe. I definitely recommend this book if boundaries and even hurt from Christians is something that you have struggled with. That is my personal journey of setting boundaries and then Christians getting upset and using things against me and everything. And I really love after each chapter, there are questions you can ask yourself and journal and write. And so I'm really excited to get the book and go through those questions for myself and work on myself more. But yes, I hope this is able to help you or someone you love, and I'll see you in the next one.